3 years ago, a fleet of warships surrounded a small island ready for battle, but instead of using their usual weapons, they knew the monsters on the island were too powerful for that. This was a job for the hunters. A team of hunters from the Jeju Island raiding squad gathered to fight against the huge red ants coming out of the forest. With swords, shields, daggers, and magic, the hunters bravely faced the monstrous ants. But the lower-ranked hunters were quickly overpowered. Just when it seemed like there was no hope, a mysterious man in a hood jumped into the fight. He healed one of the injured hunters while his 2 allies took on the rest of the monsters. These 3 heroes were the S-rank hunters Min Byung-ju, Eun-sak, and Baek Yoon-ho. They swooped in to save the day. During the battle, a giant white ant appeared and challenged Yoon-ho, but he easily defeated it. Soon, more white ants joined the fight, targeting Yoon-ho and Eun-sak. Meanwhile, Choi Jong-in, watching from a city nearby, launched a fiery attack on a group of ants before signaling his team, the Hunters Guild, to move forward. 10 years earlier, mysterious gates had suddenly opened all around the world, connecting to another dimension. Magic beasts poured through these gates, and at the same time, certain humans gained magical abilities to fight back. These humans became known as hunters. They were ranked by their strength, starting from E rank, the weakest, all the way up to S rank, the strongest. However, once a hunter's abilities were awakened, they would stay at that level forever. At a construction site, the weakest hunter, Sung Jin-woo, arrived to join a raid with other hunters. Even though he was known as the weakest, Jinwoo was still accepted by the others. His presence meant the raid would be an easy one. The other hunters greeted him warmly, and he shared a brief chat with Lee Joo-hee, a healer he'd worked with before. She was worried about his injuries from a previous job, but reminded him to be careful. Jinwoo wasn't bothered by being called the weakest. He told her he was used to it. Soon, Song Chiwol, the team leader, gathered everyone before they entered the dungeon. As the raid began, Jinwoo checked his weapon, just a weak knife, the only one he could afford. Still, he felt a bit more confident and was the last to enter the portal. Meanwhile, in the office of the Korean Hunters Association chairman, Go Gun-hee discussed dungeon raids with his assistant, Woo Jin-chol. He explained that essence stones, valuable resources dropped by magical beasts, were in high demand. Hunters could make a living by collecting and selling them. These stones could be used to make weapons and gear, and the government was also studying ways to use them for clean energy. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo was thrilled when he found his very first essence stone. But his excitement didn't last long. A magical beast attacked him, a goblin with a machete. He tried to fight back, but his knife shattered, and the goblin stabbed him in the stomach. Bleeding out, Jinwoo collapsed. Fortunately, his teammate Park Ji-Seul took down the goblin, while Joo-hee quickly healed Jinwoo. After the raid team defeats the dungeon boss, a terrifying werewolf, they celebrate their victory while looting the spoils. Meanwhile, Jinwoo, still recovering from his injuries, watches from a distance. Joo-hee, worried about him, calls out and heals his wounds. Suddenly, Jong-ho discovers a hidden cave entrance to a rare double dungeon. He shares the news, and the team debates whether to explore for more loot. Jinwoo holds the deciding vote, while Joo-hee votes against it, fearing the dangers. Jinwoo's situation is complicated. He's the sole provider for his family. His dad is missing, his mom is in the hospital, and he helps pay for his sister's college. Needing the money, Jinwoo decides to vote to enter the dungeon, despite the risks. Elsewhere, in the building of the Hunters Guild, Yoo Jin-hyo enters a room in front of a machine. Meanwhile, in a city, 2 thieves on a motorcycle snatch a woman's purse. A young woman jumps into action, easily catching the thieves and returning the bag. She's recognized as the S-rank hunter, Chae Hae-in. After handing the bag back, she catches the attention of bystanders, but uncomfortable with the crowd, she quickly leaps onto nearby buildings and disappears. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo and the team trek through the cave for 40 minutes. Jinwoo apologizes to Joo-hee for his vote, which put them in danger. Joo-hee, frustrated, scolds him for repeatedly risking his life, remembering how hard it was to heal his wounds last time. Jinwoo, feeling guilty, apologizes again and promises to thank her someday. They finally reach the end of the tunnel and find a massive door. With a deep breath, they open it, stepping into an unknown room. Meanwhile, Chairman Go Gun-hee addresses a group of newly awakened individuals, warning them about the dangers of becoming hunters. He advises them to always remain cautious, even if they're experienced, and shares a simple but vital piece of advice: please be afraid for survival. Inside the room, blue flames light up, revealing ancient statues and strange instructions. The team, expecting to face magic beasts and loot, is confused. Joo-hee warns Jinwoo that one of the statues seems to be staring at them. Jinwoo brushes it off, thinking she's just imagining things. But suddenly the door slams shut. One team member, trying to leave, is struck down by a statue that comes to life, killing him instantly before returning to its position. The team is paralyzed with fear, and Jinwoo turns to see the largest statue, the one Joo-hee had warned him about. Jinwoo recalls all the close calls he's had in dungeons, from serious injuries to near-death experiences. He knew they were in serious trouble. Suddenly, the giant statue's gaze shifts toward him, and Jinwoo quickly shouts for his teammates to duck. In a flash, a deadly light beam shoots from the statue's eyes, incinerating several of the hunters. Jinwoo manages to save Joo-hee just in time, but he realizes they're in grave danger and their survival is uncertain. Paralyzed by fear, Jinwoo and his comrades struggle to process the horrifying sight of their teammates being killed. The fear intensifies as they witness the brutal death of 2 of their members. Chiyul, trying to keep them calm, warns everyone not to move, fearing the statue might launch another deadly attack. Jinwoo, noticing Juhi's shock, tries to speak to her, but she's too traumatized to respond. Chiyul then asks Jinwoo how he saw the attack coming. Jinwoo replies it was just instinct. To his shock, Jinwoo realizes that Chiyul has lost an arm due to the statue's attack. Jinwoo quickly helps him stop the bleeding. Chiyul, grimacing in pain, estimates that the statue could be in a rank or even an S rank, based on its ability to instantly kill their teammate. He reflects on his past experiences as a hunter, comparing the statue's power to that of some of the strongest creatures he's encountered. As they talk, Chiyul begins listing what he calls commandments that they need to follow in this dungeon. First, thou shalt worship God. Second, thou shalt praise God. Third, thou shalt prove thy faith. Those who do not follow these laws will not leave alive. Jinwoo realizes that God refers to the giant statue. The narrator then shifts focus, reminding viewers of the origins of the gates and the hunters who venture into them. It states that hunters are some of the strongest individuals, both in mind and body, because of the constant danger they face in dungeons. Meanwhile, back in school, Jinwoo's sister Songjina is in class when her friend Han Song-yi narrowly avoids being late. Curious, Song-yi asks Gina about her brother's role as a hunter. Gina modestly describes him as just an E-rank hunter, often getting injured. Song-yi, quietly to herself, remarks that if she were a hunter, she'd make even an E-rank look good. Back in the dungeon, Chiyul and Jinwoo try to figure out how to deal with the 3 trials presented by the Statue of God. Tensions rise as another hunter, Ju Jae-hwan, who had recently secured a contract with a big guild, decides to run for the exit. Believing speed was his specialty, Jae-hwan dashes for the door, only to be instantly disintegrated by another deadly beam from the statue. All that remains of him are his feet. Despite the rising panic, Chiyul and Jinwoo do their best to maintain composure, trying not to let the chaos take over. The air is thick with fear, and the team's survival hangs in the balance. Jinwoo, recalling the first commandment to worship God, decides to test the statue. He nervously stands up but backs down when he feels the pressure. The statue's eyes flicker toward him and begin to glow before halting. Realizing that his theory was correct, Jinwoo urgently yells for everyone to kneel. He explains that the statue will only incinerate those who are at or above a certain height. As everyone complies and bows, the statue's expression twists into a sinister grin, but it remains still. Park Byung-shik, relieved, stands up and is happy to see the statue not moving. The rest of the group follows suit, believing the danger has passed, but their relief is short-lived. The statue starts walking toward them, its smile growing wider. One of the hunters, recalling the second commandment to praise God, attempts to appease the statue. He introduces himself as a student of ethnology and offers prayers he knows to the approaching statue. However, the statue crushes him underfoot, its smile widening even more, signaling that his prayers were not correct for this god. Another member, paralyzed with fear, becomes the next victim of the statue's wrath. As they flee in panic, Park Byung-shik thinks of his wife and son and runs toward a statue holding a sword, believing the walls are the safest place. He is soon warned by Kim Sang-shik that the statue is about to attack, but it's too late. Byung-shik is brutally chopped in half by the statue's sword. In the chaos, Jinwoo begins to piece together the meaning of the second commandment: praise must come in the form of hymns, and the music must be played by the statues. He orders the survivors to run toward the statues holding instruments instead of weapons. Chiyul confirms Jinwoo's theory when he reaches a statue holding a trumpet, which begins to play. Sang-shik, in a moment of desperation, reaches a statue holding a violin and breaks down in tears as it starts to play. Jinwoo pulls Ju-hee to a statue of a drummer, but quickly realizes that 2 people can't be near the same statue without deactivating it. He leaves Ju-hee behind at the drummer statue and searches for another one. In his haste, Jinwoo almost gets crushed by the statue's foot and is knocked toward a statue holding a shield. The statue drops its shield on him, but Jinwoo manages to crawl toward another statue that appears to be singing. When activated, the singing statue stops the god statue's pursuit and forces it to return to its throne, resuming its original expression. Ju-hee rushes to Jinwoo, only to find that he's lost a leg. Despite her own limited mana, she heals him as best she can. The rest of the survivors catch up, and Sang-shik, in a grim tone, reminds Chiyul that he's responsible for the lives of their fallen comrades. Chiyul reluctantly agrees, despite the protests of the others. Suddenly, a rumbling shakes the chamber, and the survivors turn to see that the giant statue has summoned a stone cylinder to appear at the center of the room. Jinwoo realizes that it's an altar used in ancient times for sacrifices. Sang-shik then suggests that Chiyul should use this time to take responsibility for the deaths of their comrades. Jinwoo silently agrees, thinking that the decision to enter the dungeon was a group one and shouldn't be blamed on just one person. Chiyul walks to the center of the altar and activates a flame. The flame flickers but doesn't fully ignite. Jinwoo asks 2 other survivors to help him walk to the altar, and together, They activate 3 more flames in the circle. Meanwhile, Jinwoo's sister, Gina, visits her unconscious mother in the hospital. She quietly talks about her recent school results, sharing her progress with her mom, who remains unresponsive. In the dungeon, Jinwoo gathers the remaining survivors around the altar. They're shocked when a circle of blue flames rises around the original 6 flames. The dungeon door opens once Sang-shik and Ju-hee enter the circle. As the statues begin moving towards the group, Jinwoo quickly deduces that if anyone is watching a statue, it can't move just like the game they played as kids. He also realizes that the blue flames are a timer that started as soon as everyone entered. As 2 of them go out, Jinwoo informs the group of this, warning them not to leave the circle and to keep their eyes on the statues. He explains that the open door is a trap, but 2 of the survivors in a panic leave the circle anyway. Desperate to avoid creating a blind spot, Jinwoo yells for the rest to stay put. Sang-shik, however, expresses his fears about the door closing on them, no matter what, and tearfully apologizes, explaining he has a family waiting for him. With only Ju-hee, Chi-yul, and Jinwoo left, Chi-yul insists on staying behind, but Ju-hee collapses, unable to move. She realizes she has used up all her magic. Jinwoo, still trying to stay positive, tells Chi-yul to take Ju-hee and get her to safety. He gives Ju-hee the essence stone he had found earlier, telling her to use it to buy food as he had promised to take her out to eat. In tears, Ju-hee questions how Jinwoo can still joke in the face of danger, before Chi-yul swiftly knocks her out to protect her. As Chi-yul carries the unconscious Ju-hee out, Jinwoo, desperate to become stronger like the others, grabs the sword that Sang-shik left behind. One of the statues, now close enough, launches its weapon at him, missing. But soon, Jinwoo is attacked and mutilated by the statues. His screams echo through the dungeon as he is repeatedly struck. Leaning against the altar, Jinwoo tries to scream one last time, but is stabbed by a statue's spear, lifted into the air, and thrown onto the altar. Surrounded by his own blood, Jinwoo watches in silent horror as one of the statues raises its sword, preparing to strike. Suddenly, a blue flame goes out, and an interface appears in Jinwoo's mind, asking him if he accepts or declines the offer to become a player. The message warns that his heart will stop in 0.02 seconds if he declines. With no time to think, Jinwoo accepts, sealing his fate and marking the beginning of a new chapter in his life. After his harrowing experience in the double dungeon, Jinwoo unexpectedly wakes up in a hospital, feeling relieved to find his body completely recovered. His left leg, which had been severely injured, is now healed. For a moment, he wonders if everything that happened in the dungeon was just a nightmare. However, his surprise is short-lived when Woo Jinchul and Kang Tae-shik, inspectors from the Korean Hunters Association, enter the room. They inform Jinwoo that he's been unconscious for 3 days. Jinchul explains that when they found him, he was collapsed on the floor with no sign of the statues that the other survivors had described. The inspectors begin questioning him about the possibility of a second awakening, which could raise his class rank from E rank to A or even S rank. They present a mana meter and ask him to test his mana. Jinwoo, feeling a mix of excitement and uncertainty, asks what rank he might have now if he really had been reawakened, but when the meter shows a score of 10, Jinchul apologizes, indicating that they may have made a mistake. Jinwoo's brief hope is dashed, and he questions why the officials didn't address the strange message he had received from the system. Sungjina, his sister, soon enters the room, expressing her worry and frustration. She is relieved that Jinwoo is awake, but scolds him for being so reckless. She even threatens to quit school to work so he can retire from being a hunter. As she speaks, Jinwoo reflects on his past decisions, particularly during the double dungeon, where he had been willing to sacrifice himself for her. He wonders if she can see the same mysterious system message that only he has been able to see. Realizing she cannot, he curiously asks her how one might deal with unread notifications, comparing it to a video game. Gina, confused, suggests he check his inbox before leaving to meet her friend, Han Song-yi. Outside, alone, Jinwoo focuses on the cryptic messages that have been appearing to him. A futuristic blue interface presents 2 notifications, one explaining that the system's purpose is to assist in player development, and another warning him of penalties if he fails to comply. He is left confused by the implications of these messages. A third message reveals his first daily quest, titled Strength Training has arrived, which consists of 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10 kilometers run, all tracked by the system. Jinwoo is skeptical and unsure if these quests are real or just a figment of his imagination. Still, feeling too weary to make sense of it all, he dismisses the quest for now and settles back down to rest, hoping for clarity as he recovers. As Jinchul and Tae-shik drive back to the Hunters Association, Jinchul is on the phone with Go Gun-hee, reporting their findings regarding Jinwoo's supposed reawakening. They both acknowledge the potential error in their assessment and discuss the strange events surrounding Jinwoo. Gun-hee comments on their fortune in avoiding a dungeon break, but admits that the situation remains shrouded in mystery. The two conclude that the incident should be classified as a special case in the association's database for further evaluation. At the Hunters Guild, Choi Jong-in assigns Chae-hae in to participate in an upcoming B-rank raid. Though unsure of her leadership abilities, Hei-An is reassured by Jong-in, who believes in her capability to lead the mission. He makes it clear that the raid's primary purpose is to evaluate new recruits, and Hei-An's presence will serve as a valuable learning experience for them. As he reflects on the guild's current standing, Choi acknowledges that while they rank among the top 5 in Korea, they still fall short on the international stage. He stresses the importance of working together to bridge the gap in strength. Meanwhile, civilians on the road are disrupted by the sudden appearance of a gate. Frustrated by the inconvenience, they express disappointment that hunters haven't yet arrived to manage the situation, expecting the usual quick response. Back at the hospital, Jin-woo, still unaware of the ticking timer for his daily quest, peacefully sleeps in his room. He is suddenly jolted awake by a rumbling, which he mistakes for an earthquake. To his shock, he finds himself in an unfamiliar sunless desert. A new message informs him that he must survive for the next 4 hours. A massive centipede soon appears, beginning to chase him. At the hospital, 2 nurses discover that Jin-woo is missing and start searching the premises. Meanwhile, Jin-woo struggles to survive the relentless pursuit of the centipede in the desert. After 4 grueling hours, he is found, exhausted, by the nurses and returned to the hospital. The following day, Jin-woo, now wearing a tracksuit, tells his sister, Gina, that he plans to head out. Meanwhile, Lee Ju-yi, still shaken from the trauma of the double dungeon, receives a phone call asking her to participate in a raid. Knowing her own emotional state, she declines the invitation. However, she is informed that Jin-woo has woken up, which prompts her to visit the hospital. At the hospital, Ju-hee finds Jin-woo jogging outside with 2 nurses keeping an eye on him. After completing more of his quests, Jin-woo takes a break and sits down, beginning to understand the functions and rewards the system provides. Back inside his room, he receives a special reward, a key to a new location, the Hapjeong subway station, which leads him to an instance dungeon. Jin-woo realizes that his journey is far from over, and that the system has more in store for him. As a news reporter on TV announces that the Hunters Guild will be managing the dungeon that emerged on the road, Jin-woo reflects on his past while visiting his comatose mother, Park Kyung-hae. The memories flood in his early days working in construction, his moment of awakening as a hunter, and his determination to earn money to cover his mother's hospital bills. He recalls how, as a rookie hunter, he was often dismissed by his fellow hunters, who told him to stay out of the way during dungeon raids. They denied him a share of the rewards, claiming he wasn't strong enough, and he would apologize in shame, resigned to his weak status. Determined to change, he focused all his ability points into strength, with a clear goal in mind to become stronger and to finally provide for his family. Days pass, and Jinwoo's confidence grows as he continues his workout routines, bolstered by the physical and mental strength he's been building. He knows that it's time to finally use the mysterious key. He received a key to something unknown. With a mixture of anticipation and hesitation, he decides to insert the key into a door located within the Hapjeong subway station, triggering the entrance to a new dungeon. As the door opens, he steps inside, but to his horror, he quickly realizes that the door is closed behind him, and there is no way back. He is trapped in a dimension separate from the real world. The dungeon is eerie and abandoned, resembling a long-forgotten hallway. Jin-woo, now isolated and alone, starts to explore his surroundings. The dim lighting and the quiet atmosphere add to the sense of foreboding. He doesn't have much time to ponder his situation before he is confronted by a couple of goblins, small but dangerous creatures. Frozen in fear and with no healer by his side, Jin-woo feels the weight of his predicament. He realizes how vulnerable he is and how real the danger of the dungeon is, far removed from the trials he faced in the real world. As he attempts to figure out a plan, he takes a moment to catch his breath. Suddenly, a monstrous steel-fanged Raikan, a wolf-like creature, emerges from behind, moving with terrifying speed. The creature is formidable, and Jinwoo's mind races to come up with a way to survive. With no allies to help him, his only option is to confront this new threat head-on. The fight for survival has just begun. Jin-woo, facing the steel-fanged wolf, feels the despair of being unarmed after his dagger breaks in the earlier battle. However, his body feels different. His agility has drastically increased. With this newfound speed, he evades the beast's attacks, and to his surprise, lands a powerful blow, sending the wolf crashing into a wall. Realizing he can't defeat the beast with just his fists, he desperately searches for a weapon. To his astonishment, the system grants him an inventory, allowing him to retrieve the sword left behind by Kim Sang-shik during the double dungeon. Armed with the sword, Jinwoo faces the beast again. Before he can react fully, 2 more wolves appear. Jinwoo swings at one, but its jaw blocks the strike. With more strength, he breaks free and kills the first wolf. The second wolf hesitates and flees. Alone now, Jinwoo inspects his stats and finds new items, not magic gems, which he can sell for currency. His thoughts shift to the dungeon's boss. As more wolves emerge, Jinwoo faces them with determination, killing them one by one. When the last wolf falls, he grabs a teleportation stone from the loot and proceeds deeper into the dungeon. Outside, Lee Ju-yi receives a call from the Hunters Association about a dungeon break and is asked to join a raid as they are short on healers. Feeling guilty for earlier rejecting the request, she agrees to help. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo checks the colors of the beast's titles, realizing white means weaker, orange is similar, and red is stronger than him. He feels more confident but remains cautious as he moves forward. In a dark, expansive sewer-like chamber, waves of water rush toward him, signaling the arrival of the dungeon's boss, a giant snake, blue venom-fanged Kasaka. Jinwoo strikes, but his sword does no damage. The snake's tail slams him into the water, and it throws a train-sized object toward him. Jinwoo narrowly avoids it. As he struggles, a flashback to a conversation with Song Chiyul resurfaces. Chiyul had called him the weakest hunter, urging him to prove them wrong. Jinwoo, fueled by determination, prepares for the battle ahead, knowing he must overcome the Kasaka to survive and protect those he cares about. Kasaka relentlessly dominates the battle, hurling Jinwoo through a wall with its immense strength. Despite his attempts to penetrate the snake's tough scales with his broken sword, Jinwoo quickly realizes that he can't win with his current weapon. Blood pouring from his wounds, he decides to rely on his own enhanced strength. He grabs the snake by its neck and tightens his grip as it thrashes wildly. Using sheer force, Jinwoo finally manages to kill the beast. As Kasaka collapses, Jinwoo acquires the Kasaka's venom fang, a dagger made from its fangs. The dungeon and the snake's corpse disappear, returning the instant dungeon to the Hapjeong subway station. Jinwoo exits the dungeon, taking the stairs out, where a soldier scolds him for being in the area before realizing he is a hunter. The soldier guides him to safety, and Jinwoo asks about the fate of the magic beasts after a dungeon break. The soldier explains that most of the creatures were killed, except for a giant one still at large. Jinwoo senses the presence of the remaining beast, his enhanced abilities giving him the power to detect its location. At the scene, a massive bluestone golem is being battled by a group of E&D rank hunters, struggling to breach its defenses. Civilians, including Jinwoo, watch the chaotic scene, snapping pictures. They seem almost to mock the hunters' futile attempts, showing annoyance and disdain toward the ongoing dungeon break. Jinwoo soon realizes that the hunters are hopelessly outmatched. He spots Juhi among the group, struggling with her healing magic, still affected by the trauma from the double dungeon. Observing that the stone golem is only D rank lower than the C rank fanged Kasaka he just defeated, Jinwoo decides to intervene. He prepares to throw the broken sword from Kim Sang-shik, the same one he used in his previous battle. With the hunters on the brink of defeat, Jinwoo's sword pierces the golem's eye, breaking through its defenses. The shift in momentum allows the hunters to finish off the monster. The tanker among the hunters is left puzzled, wondering how the golem's defenses were breached so suddenly when their attacks had been ineffective. Spotting the broken sword in the debris, he asks a nearby soldier about who launched the weapon. The soldier replies that it was an unknown hunter from the back, who has already disappeared. Astonished by the power behind the strike, the tanker wonders if the hunter was of a higher rank. Meanwhile, Jinwoo, having already left the scene, reflects that the golem might have already been weakened before he threw his sword. As he walks down an alley, Juhi catches a glimpse of him, her eyes narrowing as she wonders if he could have been the one responsible for the sudden shift in the battle. The nurses at the hospital couldn't help but gossip about Jinwoo's impressive transformation, a result of his relentless strength training through the system. Nurse Choyora, in particular, was taken aback when she saw Jinwoo post-workout, his muscles clearly defined. Blushing, she nervously informed him that he was being discharged and, emboldened by the moment, asked for his phone number. Jinwoo, unaware of the true reason behind her request, casually complied, assuming it was part of the usual discharge procedure. Meanwhile, Baek Yoonho, an S-rank hunter, appeared on a morning news show. The host, noting the rarity of S-rank hunters, brought up that there were only 7 in the world before shifting the conversation to Baek's life outside the dungeon. Baek talked about his daily training routine, which he continued from his days as a firefighter to stay sharp. At home, Jinwoo's sister, Jina, watched Baek's interview on TV. She noticed the time and called out to her brother as she prepared to leave for school. Jinwoo, still groggy with bedhead, greeted her with a yawn. Surprised by his new physique, Jina remarked that he seemed to have been working out lately and even appeared taller. Grinning, she slipped on her shoes, preparing to leave, but Jinwoo insisted she take an umbrella, showing his protective side despite her refusal. Jinwoo, after watching his sister leave, reviewed his daily training quests and wondered if he'd eventually resemble a bodybuilder. At level 18, he focused his stat points on strength, agility, and perception, following his victory against the dungeon boss. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a phone call from his landlord, reminding him of overdue rent. Though the landlord offered an extension, Jinwoo declined, determined not to burden anyone. He resolved to settle the bill immediately, realizing he'd need to take on a raid job to cover his expenses. This led him to increase his stats further and begin looking for raid opportunities online. Although Jinwoo was now strong enough to take on magic beasts that would easily cover the rent, he was still technically an E-rank hunter and wary of drawing too much attention by joining higher ranked raids. He wanted to understand more about his transformation before exposing himself to such scrutiny. One job listing stood out to him. Jinwoo arrived at the gate for his daily quest run, meeting the raid group at a construction site. The leader, Hwang Dong-suk, greeted him, though Jinwoo's reputation as the weakest hunter was already well known. When the other hunters began to laugh, Hwang quickly silenced them. Jinwoo wasn't bothered by the ridicule, but made sure to confirm that he was joining as an E rank. The leader reassured him, explaining that he was just there to fill their quota for a C rank dungeon, and they would handle all the fighting. However, Jinwoo noticed there was no healer in sight, which struck him as odd. After signing a release form, he officially joined the raid, eager to take part and test his growing abilities. As the raid party walked toward the gate, Yu Jinho, the youngest member of the group, introduced himself with a chatty demeanor. At just 21 years old, Jinho was a D-rank hunter clad in expensive new armor. As they approached the looming gate, Jinwoo reassured him that the magic rank of a dungeon was determined by the level of magic it emitted, not its size. They entered the dungeon, but something was off. There were no magic beasts or glowstones, making it pitch black inside. The darkness reminded Jinwoo of the Kartanon Temple, sparking memories of a similar ominous atmosphere. The group soon reached a crossroads in the tunnels, and Jinwoo sensed the presence of beasts. He identified them as insect types and instinctively sensed an attack coming from above. Just as he warned the group, a swarm of ant-like monsters descended upon them. The hunters, though startled, were well coordinated, and Jinwoo managed to hold his own, his expensive armor providing ample protection. But something felt off, and Jinwoo couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a typical dungeon. Elsewhere, S-rank hunter Baek Yoonho was training, smashing through stone with his bare hands, and causing the building to shake under his immense strength. A stark contrast to the struggles Jinwoo and the others were facing. Back in the dungeon, Jinho continued to chat with Jinwoo, trying to keep the atmosphere light as they ventured deeper into the maze-like corridors. The dungeon was vast but oddly empty of monsters. Eventually, they stumbled upon the boss chamber, which was filled with glittering mana stones in irresistible sight. And there, lying in the middle of the room, was a massive, sleeping giant spider. The group's leader, Hwang Dong-suk, saw an opportunity to show off, planning to take the spider down and make a big haul with the mana crystals. Jinho, ever watchful of Jinwoo, pointed out that according to their contract, Jinwoo was entitled to a share of the haul as well. Hwang, in a surprisingly generous tone, agreed, but he made it clear that they first needed to deal with the boss. He ordered Jinho and Jinwoo to stay put, while the rest of the group went to gather excavation gear. But when the group returned, it wasn't to mine the mana crystals, it was to spring a trap. The chamber was sealed with an explosion, trapping Jinwoo and Jinho inside with the sleeping spider. The group's true intentions were revealed. Jinwoo and Jinho were being used as bait, meant to tire the spider out so the rest could claim the mana crystals for themselves. Jinwoo, realizing the treachery, told Jinho to stand back as he took charge. He would face the boss alone, and this time, the fight would be on his terms. Hwang Dong-suk and his team of hunters, referred to as the Lizards for their cunning and sly nature, make their way out of the dungeon's gate, preparing to sneak back through the upper tunnels after Jinwoo and Jinho have dealt with the giant arachnid Barura. They mock Jinwoo, the so-called weakest hunter, and Jinho, who has no real raid experience. However, their eyes gleam with greed at the sight of Jinho's expensive new armor, knowing it could fetch a good price once they get their hands on it after the confrontation. Their conversation reveals their true selfish motive to loot the mana crystals worth around 1 billion won. They make it clear that they have no intention of facing the arachnid unless absolutely necessary, carelessly risking the possibility of a dungeon break. Meanwhile, inside the C-rank dungeon boss's lair, the massive and angry spider looms over Jinwoo and Jinho. Jinho, terrified, suggests they find an exit instead of fighting the beast, knowing that one needs to be at least B-rank to take on a C-rank boss solo. Yet Jinwoo, determined and fearless, refuses to back down. With a confident smirk, he charges forward, much to Jinho's astonishment. Despite his relentless assault, Jinwoo's dagger, Kasaka's venom fang, fails to penetrate the spider's tough exoskeleton. He continues to strike, avoiding the spider's brutal leg attacks with his speed and agility, but his efforts are futile. Jinho watches in awe and confusion, struggling to comprehend how an E-rank hunter could be moving with such precision and skill. He wonders if Jinwoo is in fact a false ranker rare hunters who manipulate their mana readings for the thrill of battle. Fear creeps into Jinho's mind as he realizes that Jinwoo may be far more dangerous than he first thought. Overcome by the situation, Jinho collapses, his thoughts turning to his father and questioning what he's doing in this perilous dungeon. Just as Jinwoo is about to tire out, having failed to find a weak spot on the beast, the spider lands a crushing blow. At the last moment, Jinwoo accepts the full recovery reward from his daily quests, instantly rejuvenated. With newfound energy, he leaps into the air and pierces the spider's eye. The venomous effects of his weapon take hold, paralyzing the creature, and Jinwoo delivers the final blow, causing the dungeon boss to collapse. As the beast falls, Jinwoo gains several levels. Jinho, with a strained smile, calls Jinwoo boss and offers him a bottle of water. Jinwoo, still unaware of the tension, simply accepts the drink, not understanding Jinho's strange behavior. The rest of the raid party appears above them, surprised to find both Jinwoo and Jinho alive. They had expected the worst, but it seems the two managed to survive the encounter with the powerful dungeon boss. Elsewhere, Chairman Go, the leader of the Hunters Guild, relaxes after a long day of meetings. His subordinate, Jinchul, suggests a sparring session to change the pace. Go easily blocks Jinchul's attacks, then lands a punch that sends the younger man flying. With a smile, Go thanks Jinchul, saying that the sparring match was exactly what he needed. He also compliments Jinchul for maintaining his training, as it could make all the difference when facing dangerous dungeon monsters. Back in the dungeon's boss lair, Dong-suk and his treacherous team of lizards return, convinced that Jin-ho must have defeated the giant spider due to his expensive gear. However, their sinister plan soon becomes clear. Dong-suk presents Jin-ho with a chilling ultimatum: kill Jin-woo to save his own life. Jin-ho, however, refuses to betray Jin-woo, standing his ground despite the danger. In response, Dong-suk orders his group to eliminate the weaker hunter, Jin-woo. At this critical moment, a system message appears, giving Jin-woo the task of slaying the 6 hunters who have turned against him. As the tension mounts, Kyawan, the mage, seizes the opportunity to launch a magic attack at Jin-woo while he's distracted. The force of the attack sends Jin-woo crashing into the dungeon wall. Meanwhile, in the city, Park Hee-jin of the White Tiger Guild meets up with 2 friends from the Hunters Guild for lunch. They discuss their recent A-rank dungeon training with the renowned S-rank hunter, Cha Hei-aen. While the friends struggled, Cha effortlessly took down an A-rank beast. They chat casually, with Gina commenting on their luck of being in prestigious guilds, especially since some dungeon strike teams have unusually high fatality rates. Back in the dungeon, Jin-woo lies in the rubble, recovering from Kyawan's attack. He reflects on the harsh reality of their world, where only the strongest survive. The system urges him to kill others, or he'll die. He wonders why the system wants to keep him alive, but decides that if the system wants to use him, he'll turn the tables and use it in return. Juntae, a traitorous D-rank hunter, approaches Jin-woo with confidence, but Jin-woo swiftly slices off his head before Juntae can finish his sentence. Jin-woo acknowledges that he's now a murderer, even if he's only following the system's demands. He doesn't hesitate and takes down the remaining hunters, leaving only Dong-suk, the C-rank party leader. Dong-suk attempts to attack, but Jin-woo easily dodges the strike, using one hand to overpower him. Dong-suk pleads for mercy, but Jin-woo responds coldly, reminding him that Dong-suk had tried to kill him 3 times. Without hesitation, Jin-woo decapitates Dong-suk, and the dungeon begins to close. Jin-ho and Jin-woo make their way out of the dungeon, the only survivors. A representative from the Hunters Guild is shocked to find that only the D-rank Jin-ho and E-rank Jin-woo survived, but quickly assumes it's because of Jin-ho's high-quality equipment. As the rain begins to fall from the evening sky, Jin-woo feels a sense of satisfaction, knowing he did the right thing by giving his sister an umbrella that morning. An agent of the Korean Hunters Association reports to Woo Jin-chul about the outcome inside the insect's dungeon, detailing the catastrophic loss of 6 out of 8 members of the strike team. The only survivors, a D-rank and an E-rank hunter, were unexpectedly the ones to clear the dungeon. The agent suggests that Woo Jin-ho's survival might be attributed to his expensive gear, but Woo Jin-chul doesn't initially grasp the full weight of the report. His interest sharpens when it's revealed that the other survivor was none other than Sung Jin-woo, the same hunter who survived the double dungeon and had previously been under investigation for a possible reawakening. The news becomes even more significant when it's revealed that one of the fallen was Hwang Dong-suk, the infamous S-rank hunter's older brother, adding a layer of complexity to the situation. At their apartment, Jin-woo returns home with fried chicken, a special treat for his sister, Gina. He tells her that he will be able to cover their mother's hospital bills and their rent, offering a brief moment of relief. As they relax, Gina asks how the raid went the other day. Jin-woo stays silent, reflecting on the raid and how easily he took down the hunters. A stark contrast to his former self, he realizes that he would do it again without hesitation if faced with the same situation. Gina notices his silence and asks if everything is alright, to which Jin-woo reassures her. Later, while drinking alcohol, Jin-woo receives a notification from the system that he's being detoxified from the effects of the beer, prompting him to leave the rest of the food with Gina and retreat to his room. There he examines the abilities he's gained, focusing on an unchecked reward candy artist's blessing which he received after surviving the double dungeon. This revelation helps him understand how he was able to regrow his limbs. Later that night, Jin-woo is awakened by Gina, who tells him that Woo Jin-ho is on the phone. She notices the empty beer cans on his desk, but Jin-woo reassures her that he's fine before heading out to meet Jin-ho. At Cafe Pini, Jin-ho expresses his gratitude to Jin-woo for saving his life and insists on recruiting him for his strike team. Jin-woo initially declines, stating that he doesn't have time for trust fund kids, but Jin-ho persists. He explains his ambition to become a guild master, which requires participating in 20 raids, with his first being the one he just survived. As the son of Yujin Construction's owner, Jin-ho shares his father's plans to establish a guild led by an S-rank hunter, with his brother, Yujin Sung, as second in command. Jin-ho also mentions Min Byung-ju, the only S-rank hunter not affiliated with any guild, who has recently retired. Jin-ho presses further, offering Jin-woo a form to join, promising the opportunity to grow stronger and with the minimum expectation of 30 billion won. Jin-woo considers it, but ultimately declines, aware of the potential complications of working with someone else. In a final, desperate attempt, Jin-ho threatens to reveal Jin-woo's secret if he refuses to join, but promises to keep it safe if Jin-woo accepts. Jin-woo responds with a cold, unwavering stare and leaves without a word, leaving Jinwoo distraught and with no option but to watch him walk away. In America, Laura reports to Hwang Dong-soo about the 2 survivors from the insect dungeon. She confirms the death of his older brother, Dong-suk, and Dong-soo's fury is evident as he crushes his phone in anger. He believes his brother was murdered and questions the consequences of committing murder abroad, startling Laura. She explains that he would face extradition or prosecution back home, with the possibility of a reduced sentence if he negotiates. However, Dong-soo is unable to alter his schedule due to commitments with the Scavenger Guild, so he decides to plan for action once his obligations are completed. As he reviews the profiles of Yoo Jin-ho and Sung Jin-woo, he crushes the notepad in his hand, vowing to avenge his brother in the future. Meanwhile, in Korea, Jinwoo and his sister Gina warm up for a jog in the park, with Jinwoo teasing her about eating too much fried chicken. During their run, Jinwoo asks Gina what she would do with 30 billion in cash. Gina hesitates but eventually says she would save it for college and pay for their mother's hospital bills. Jinwoo agrees and picks up the pace, telling her not to try to catch him. Eventually, Jinwoo stops to check his daily quest, discovering that it's already completed. Although Gina is exhausted, she catches up to him, but Jinwoo decides to continue training. He's puzzled when the running requirement continues to increase, even though he has already fulfilled the quest. Jinwoo continues running, completing double the daily requirements. This unlocks a secret quest, and the reward is a loot box. Inside, he finds a key to an S-rank dungeon called the Demon's Castle. The reward inside, the ingredients for the elixir of life, which could cure all illnesses, including the one that's incapacitated his mother. Determined to help his mother, Jinwoo wastes no time and enters the dungeon. He finds himself in the ruins of a burning city, where he's immediately confronted by a massive 3-headed magic beast, Hell's Gatekeeper Cerberus. The battle begins. Despite using all his skills and bonuses, Jinwoo struggles to inflict any significant damage on Cerberus. The beast retaliates and bites off his arm, triggering his rage ability, which doubles his abilities for 3 minutes. Jinwoo uses his full recovery and a healing potion, but it's still not enough. He then uses Kasaka's venom gland, an attack buff from the instant's dungeon, realizing that he will be immune to the poison. With Cerberus' rage ability expiring, Jinwoo starts to inflict real damage. Despite being trapped in Cerberus' jaws and nearing his last hit points, Jinwoo refuses to give up. He stabs the beast relentlessly, determined to survive. Eventually, Cerberus falls. Jinwoo levels up, healing his wounds in the process, and receives his rewards: a key to the Demon King's castle and the recipe for the elixir of life. The 3 components for the elixir are located inside the castle. Jinwoo promises himself that he will return to claim them and cure his mother. Sung Jin-woo, focused on his mother Park Kyung-hae, who remains in a coma due to eternal sleep disease, resolves to grow stronger. He plans to conquer the demon castle to obtain the elixir of life, which could potentially cure her. Determined, he prepares for this next phase in his journey, aiming to increase his strength to take on the formidable challenges ahead. The following day at Cafe Pini, Jinwoo agrees to join Yoo Jin-ho for 19 dungeon raids. Jin-ho is thrilled but makes it clear that they'll be going through the dungeon gates alone. Jinwoo insists that they should hire other hunters to meet the required 8 hunter minimum for the dungeon raids. Jin-ho, eager to impress his father, agrees, confident that clearing the gates with 0 injuries or deaths will prove his worth. Meanwhile, Cha-hae is training at a track field when she senses someone watching her. When she turns, a man approaches her, introducing himself as Yoo Byung-gil from Yujin Construction. He hands her his business card and hints that his company is planning to establish the Yujin Guild, with the possibility of her becoming the guild master. Back in the car with his father, Yoo Jin-ho listens anxiously as Yoo Myung-han talks about the changing landscape of the business world due to dungeons. Myung-han emphasizes the need to create a guild to stay competitive, especially considering their reliance on dungeon materials. However, his plan excludes Jin-ho from a leadership role, instead positioning his brother Yoo Jin-sung as vice guild master under an S-rank hunter. This exclusion leaves Jin-ho feeling anxious, unsure of his role and future in the guild. After completing his daily quest, Jinwoo is frustrated to discover that he can no longer overclock the requirements for the Demon Castle key. Instead, he receives a worthless bingo card. At level 26, he contemplates hunting the giant centipedes from the penalty zone for experience, but dismisses the idea, doubting his strength and the potential rewards. Just then, he receives a notification from the Hunters Association for an urgent D-rank dungeon. Initially hesitant, he eventually decides that it's better than nothing. In a Kumdo dojo, Song Chi-yul trains his students when he receives the same notification. He's approached by a concerned student, urging him to consider retirement. Chi-yul, despite his age and the loss of an arm, expresses his desire to use whatever strength he has left to contribute to society. At home, Kim Sang-shik watches his daughter Yoonji play with a teddy bear when he also receives the urgent raid notification. His wife urges him to quit hunting after the harrowing experience with the double dungeon, but Kim, holding his daughter close, insists on going. He highlights the financial strain on their family, with his daughter Yoonji starting kindergarten and their older daughter Yuna about to enter middle school. After some convincing, his wife reluctantly agrees, and his daughter asks if he's strong. Kim reassures her confidently that he is. At the Hunters Guild headquarters, Baek Yoon-ho, guild master of the White Tiger Guild, is invited by Choi Jong-in, guildmaster of the Hunters Guild. Bake is irritated by being asked to appear on a morning show interview, a segment he feels is better suited for Choi. Despite Bake's frustration, Choi remains calm and redirects the conversation to the newly forming Yujin Guild. Both guild masters quickly realize they are aware of the potential threat it poses in terms of poaching their hunters. However, Bake, known for his impatience, presses Choi to reveal the true reason behind their meeting. Lee Jui struggles with her mother's phone call, which urges her to quit and come back home. Feeling stifled by her mother's control, she snaps and ends the call abruptly. Alone in her room, Juhi is consumed by self-doubt, questioning her place and worth in the world. However, the memory of Jinwoo's relentless drive to get stronger sparks something within her. Inspired by his determination, Juhi decides to face her own weaknesses and persevere. Just as she makes this resolve, she receives a notification for the same urgent D-rank raid that Jinwoo, Song, and Kim are heading to, providing her a moment of clarity and purpose. Meanwhile, Cha-hae visits Choi's office, arriving just as Baek Yoonho is leaving. The two acknowledge each other as S-rank hunters with a respectful bow. Inside, Hae-in shares with Choi that Yujin Construction had approached her to become their guild master, but she declined the offer. Choi, relieved by her decision, is grateful that she chose to confide in him. Intrigued, Hae-in asks Choi about the purpose of Bake's visit, sparking a quiet exchange between the two about their roles and the rising threats in the world of hunters. Later, Bake reflects on his conversation with Choi, particularly Choi's serious discussion about the need to reconquer Jeju Island. Bake learns of Choi's plan to reclaim the island, a place of immense loss after devastating raids that took the lives of many hunters, including Choi's own comrade, Yinsak. Choi's determination to reclaim Jeju Island, despite the ghosts of the past, signals a shift in the power dynamics of the guilds. Bake understands that Choi plans to recruit more hunters, strengthen their ranks, and rally public support to rebuild and grow. The weight of this new plan lingers in Bake's mind as he processes the emotions tied to Jeju Island. At dawn, Jinwoo heads off to the urgent D-rank raid with his sister, Sung-jina, bidding him farewell. She remarks on how much he's changed recently, noting how he's no longer returning injured after every raid. Surprised to see him leave without any equipment, she tries to stop him, but Jinwoo reassures her that he will be fine and walks off. Song, also heading to the raid, reflects on his own journey. Despite his long training as a swordsman, his awakening as a mage rendered his sword skills useless, a fact that still confounds him. However, he is convinced that there is a reason for this change. As he walks to the gate, Song spots Jinwoo and is taken aback by the transformation in him. The gentle boy he once knew seems to have evolved, and Song is surprised to see that Jinwoo's leg, severed during their last encounter, is now completely healed, thanks to the system. As they reach the gate, Song is further astonished when he reunites with the survivors from the double dungeon Kim Sang-sik, Kang Jang-go, and Lee Ju-hee. The reunion is awkward, with Kim and Jang-go avoiding eye contact, weighed down by guilt for abandoning Jinwoo during the double dungeon incident. In contrast, Ju-hee stands out with her cheerful demeanor, clearly relieved and happy to be meeting Jinwoo face to face once more since that traumatic experience. However, their reunion is quickly interrupted by the arrival of their full strike team, which includes 3 C-rank hunters who are in handcuffs. These criminals are part of a substitute hunter program that allows them to participate in raids in exchange for reduced prison sentences. Kang Tae-shik, a B-rank hunter from the Hunters Association, oversees the criminals, ensuring they don't step out of line during the raid. The urgency of the situation has left the association with no other choice but to use this method, adding an unexpected layer of tension to the already strained atmosphere within the group. In the depths of the D-rank dungeon, Jinwoo and his former strike team Mr. Song, Ju-hee, Jang-ko, and Kim Sang-sik are reunited under tense circumstances. Jinwoo, still harboring resentment towards Kim for abandoning him during the Kartanan Temple incident, finds himself unable to truly forgive. Despite Kim's visible remorse, he struggles to apologize for his actions. The atmosphere in the dungeon is heavy, with the group facing goblins, who are swiftly dispatched by the prisoner hunters, overseen by Kang Tae-shik from the Hunters Association. The prisoners seem to relish in the killings, and Tae-shik, unbothered by their casual cruelty, observes the group's progress. Song comments on Jinwoo's remarkable strength, noticing his new dagger and lack of injuries, which piques Ju-hee's curiosity about his abilities. Jinwoo downplays the transformation, attributing it to daily exercises, though Song senses something deeper, a change that goes beyond physical strength, something in Jinwoo's aura. When they come to a fork in the dungeon, Tae-shik suggests splitting the group to speed up the process. Jinwoo, using his heightened perception, correctly identifies the boss's location and chooses the left path, accompanied by Song and Ju-hee. Meanwhile, Tae-shik leads the prisoners down the right path, leaving Kim and Jang-ho to take the middle path. As they split up, Tae-shik casts a calculating glance at Jinwoo, which doesn't go unnoticed. Kim and Jang-ho handle their path effortlessly, killing goblins with ease. Kim, however, remarks sarcastically that the presence of the weakest hunter must mean the dungeon is a low-risk one, Jang-ho, however, recalls Jinwoo's pivotal role in their survival during the double dungeon event and challenges Kim's dismissive comment. Kim, feeling the weight of his past actions, resolves to apologize to Jinwoo for abandoning him. Though Jang-ho questions whether Jinwoo will forgive him, Kim is determined to make amends after this raid. Meanwhile, Taishik, with his hands in his pockets, watches the prisoner hunters kill goblins with casual indifference. He questions them about their capacity to kill humans as easily as they do goblins, to which the prisoners respond coldly, indifferent to the distinction. Taishik recalls a meeting with a distraught father who had offered him 3 billion won to kill these prisoners after they assaulted his daughter, leading to the girl's suicide and her mother's hospitalization. The father, disgusted by the justice system, wanted these men gone for good, aware that their participation in raids would reduce their sentences. This memory plants a seed of anger in Taishik's mind. As the prisoners continue to kill with abandon, Taishik decides to take matters into his own hands. He coldly concocts a story to deceive the inspectors, claiming that 100 goblin swarm overwhelmed the team. However, his true plan is much darker, as he turns on the prisoners with a brutal resolve. Kim and Jang-ho witness the shocking sight of Taishik decapitating the final convict without hesitation. Kim, unable to process the situation, looks on in disbelief. Taishik approaches them with a menacing air, announcing that he has to alter his plan. On the left path, Jinwoo reflects on his earlier encounter with Taishik, who had been one of the Hunters Association investigators that visited him in the hospital. Suddenly, a scream echoes through the dungeon, and Jinwoo's group races toward the source. They arrive to find the bodies of Kim and Kang both sliced to pieces. Kim, barely alive, struggles to breathe as Jui tries desperately to heal him enough to speak. In his last moments, Kim gasps out an apology, deeply regretting that he can never truly make up for abandoning Jinwoo. With his final breath, Kim dies, leaving Jinwoo devastated and torn. In his grief, Jinwoo yells at Kim to stay alive, unable to accept that his former teammate will never get the chance to apologize properly. As Taishik steps from the shadows, ready to strike at Juhi, Jinwoo grabs his arm in midair, stopping him cold. Taishik, unperturbed, calmly declares that he will fabricate a story blaming the prisoners for the killings. Seeing Taishik's cold demeanor, Song steps forward, urging Jinwoo to step back. He picks up Kim's sword, preparing to defend his friends, and the tension in the air thickens. The group stands on the precipice of a deadly confrontation, caught between the ruthless machinations of Taishik and the painful loss of a comrade. The dungeon's darkness is now a reflection of the treachery unfolding within it. As the battle intensifies, Song faces off against Taishik's brutal and agile attacks. Despite Taishik's skill as an assassin-type hunter, Song holds his ground, managing to parry his strikes. Taishik, impressed by Song's swordsmanship, lands a hit, but Juhi quickly heals him, drawing Taishik's attention. He shifts his focus to Juhi, but Song isn't about to let that happen. He engages Taishik again, enduring multiple strikes as Juhi struggles to keep up with her healing efforts. With his back against the wall, Song unleashes a fiery trap, engulfing Taishik in flames. However, Taishik, singed but unfazed, dodges the attack with a smirk, praising Song for his strategy. With his dagger raised to finish the job, Taishik is suddenly intercepted by Jinwoo, much to both Song and Juhi's shock. Taishik, surprised by Jinwoo's quick reaction, recognizes that Jinwoo is no ordinary E-rank hunter. He deduces that Jinwoo must have experienced a second awakening, as he's been on raids before and allowed Song and Juhi to live. Yet Taishik remains confident that Jinwoo's lack of experience would put him at a disadvantage. Before their fight begins, Jinwoo confronts Taishik, asking why he killed and tortured the others. Taishik's response is chilling. It wasn't about justice or money, but about the twisted thrill he gets from killing people, which he finds far more exciting than hunting beasts. With a sadistic grin, Taishik attacks, triggering a system message similar to the one Jinwoo received when he faced the malicious group of hunters. Jinwoo, using his speed buff, lands a strike on Taishik, cutting his cheek with his poison blade. They engage in a flurry of attacks, but Taishik suddenly vanishes, using his stealth ability to become invisible. Despite the assassin's tricks, Jinwoo manages to block his strikes, but Taishik slices his ankle, immobilizing him. Jinwoo quickly activates full recovery, healing the wound in an instant, which shocks Taishik. He's never encountered a combat hunter who can also use healing magic. Recognizing a fellow killer in Jinwoo, Taishik grins darkly, knowing he's facing someone who understands the thrill of battle. Song and Juhi, observing the fight, gasp as they realize Jinwoo has been forced to make tough choices, killing and surviving against odds. Jinwoo, unleashing his murderous intent skill, blinds Taishik long enough to land a fatal strike, piercing his heart. As Taishik dies, he warns Jinwoo to be careful of the darkness that will follow him. But Jinwoo reveals his growth from every battle, claiming the stealth skill as a reward. With Taishik defeated, Juhi and Kim exit the dungeon, leaving Jinwoo to finish the boss. Soon after, investigator Woo Jinchul arrives at the scene, blaming himself for not seeing Taishik's true nature. As he recognizes Jinwoo from the hospital, he asks which of the 3 hunters defeated Taishik. To Jinwoo's dismay, Song steps forward, claiming responsibility. Considering Song's C-rank magic user status and Juhi's healing abilities, Woo accepts the explanation without further questioning, though Jinwoo remains cautious, sensing Woo's rank status. As the investigation wraps up, the man who hired Taeshik to kill the prisoners turns himself in to the police, and the incident is concluded. Later, Jinwoo and Juhee share a moment of quiet relief in a nearby park. Juhee pulls an essence stone from her bag and asks, "Do you remember this?" Her question hangs in the air, carrying a sense of significance as Jinwoo looks at the stone, wondering what it means for their future. After another successful raid, Jinwoo and Juhee enjoy a peaceful walk in the park, reflecting on their recent experiences. Juhee, AB rank healer, admits she's been reconsidering her role as a hunter. She confesses her feelings of inadequacy and timidity, unsure if she's cut out for this life anymore. Despite this, she expresses gratitude for the lower ranking raids that led her to meet Jinwoo, particularly admiring his unwavering resolve even as she healed his many injuries. In a tender moment, she returns the E-rank essence stone Jinwoo had given her during their last encounter, revealing that she never sold it. She decides it's time to retire from hunting and return home, parting with a heartfelt smile, expressing her hope to meet him again soon. Alone, Jinwoo contemplates the warning he received from Woo Jinchul after the raid. Woo had cautioned him about the potential threat from S-rank hunter Hwang Dong-soo, who might seek revenge for his brother, Hwang Dong-suk's death. Woo suggested that Jinwoo and Jinhyo, the only other survivor from the raid, should be extra cautious and even consider leaving the country, as the law is powerless to deal with S ranks. Jinwoo understands that this is yet another reason for him to continue growing stronger. He knows he won't stand a chance at his current level. Later, Jinwoo and Jinhyo prepare to enter a glowing C-rank dungeon gate, accompanied by a unique strike team of lower-ranked hunters handpicked by Jinhyo. These hunters were chosen for their various personal issues, such as injuries, lack of experience, or struggles with alcoholism, yet they meet the minimum requirement of 8 hunters for the raid. Among them is Han Song-yi, a minor who has awakened as a hunter but is still skipping school. She's also a friend of Jinwoo's sister Gina, although Jinwoo doesn't realize this at the time. Song-yi, not fond of being referred to as a kid, takes offense when Jinwoo points out her E-rank status and lack of experience. Jinwoo informs the team that only he and Jinho will be entering the dungeon, which causes some skepticism, especially considering the lucrative offer of 3 million won per raid just to show up. Jinho clarifies the terms of the contract, including the non-disclosure agreement. To everyone's surprise, Jinwoo activates the stealth skill he obtained from the runestone after defeating Kang Taeshik, preparing for the upcoming dungeon challenge. He insists that Jinho remove his high-rank armor, although he's allowed to keep his helmet for protection. As the rest of the team waits outside, skeptical of Jinwoo and Jinho's plan, the two hunters return after only an hour. Initially, the team assumes they fled, but to their amazement, Jinwoo and Jinho had cleared the C-rank dungeon in record time, far faster than the usual 2 hours it typically takes a strike team. Motivated by their swift success, Jinwoo and Jinho plan to take on 3 dungeons in a single day, leaving their teammates in awe of their abilities and determination. Jinwoo and Jinhyo continue their relentless dungeon clearing, with Jinwoo swiftly dispatching goblins and bosses alike. As days pass, they clear more dungeons, facing off against creatures like snakes, scorpions, and werewolves. With each victory, Jinwoo's power grows. His skills level up, and his stealth ability catches Jinho's attention, leaving him amazed at the newfound effectiveness and the rapid development of Jinwoo's strength. By the time Jinwoo reaches level 40, his skills have evolved significantly. He gains advanced dagger wielding and fatal strike, 2 powerful abilities that expand his combat potential. Recognizing the need for more mana to fully utilize his upgraded skills, Jinwoo begins to focus on increasing his intelligence. Despite his progress, he feels his power level is somewhere between B rank and a rank, still far from the Demon King's castle. This prompts him to consider how far he has yet to go before he can face stronger enemies, like S-rank hunters such as Woo Jinchul. As Jinwoo's strength continues to grow, a system alert signals that he's eligible for a job change quest, a milestone he's been waiting for. Meanwhile, at the White Tiger Guild headquarters, manager An Sang-min takes notice of Jinho's recent investment, spending a large sum of 150 million won $121,500 USD on C-rank gates. He recalls Jinwoo's name from the infamous double dungeon incident and grows increasingly curious about him. Aang suspects that Jinwoo may have undergone a second awakening, given his narrow escapes from dangerous situations like the double dungeon, the attack by Kang Taeshik, and the encounter with Hwang Dong-suk's strike team. Intrigued, Oshi decides to investigate Jinwoo further at one of the gates. Achen and his assistant, Yoon Ki-chul, arrive at the C-rank gate and are surprised to see a group of mismatched hunters lounging outside. Han Song-yi, a minor hunter who is a friend of Jinwoo's sister Gina, tells them the area is restricted, causing An to deduce that Jinwoo is likely tackling the dungeon solo. This increases An's resolve to recruit Jinwoo, who he believes could be a major asset to the guild. The two decide to leave, but linger to overhear Jinhyo and Jinwoo's conversation as they exit the gate. Jinwoo requests a day off to complete his job change quest, causing Jinhyo to delay their next gate reservation. Elsewhere, Guildmaster Choi Jong-in is tormented by recurring nightmares of the failed Jeju Island raid, with visions of hunters consumed by fire and a monstrous ant looming over him. He is jolted awake, clutching his reconnaissance plans for the island, knowing the time to act is near. Back at the White Tiger Guild, Jinwoo bids farewell to his strike team and is approached by An and Kichul, who aim to recruit him. Over coffee, An boasts about the guild's prestige, offering Jinwoo double the amount promised by Yujin Construction. However, Jinwoo's counteroffer of 30 billion won $24.3 million USD catches An off guard. Jinwoo, prepared with his Yujin contract, warns An about prying into his affairs and places a hand on An's shoulder in a sharp, warning gesture. Zhen, realizing he's dealing with someone far more dangerous than he first thought, watches as Jinwoo vanishes using his stealth skill. After a brief, startled moment, An clarifies that his investigation was focused on the C-rank gates and not Jinwoo himself. He apologizes for the intrusion and agrees to keep Jinwoo's abilities a secret. Jinwoo reappears and offers a deal. He will sell 3 C-rank gates for 300 million won each, despite the shock this causes An. Ain, recognizing the value in these gates for training his guild's new members, agrees to the deal, totaling 600 million won $486,000 USD. As a gesture of goodwill, Jinwoo heals An's cut with a health potion before departing, leaving An to reflect on Jinwoo's immense potential. The following day, the White Tiger Guild realizes they've been outmaneuvered. Other C-rank gates in their jurisdiction were available at a much lower price, and Jinwoo's text confirms it was retribution for spying on him. Though outsmarted, Zhen takes solace in now having Jinwoo's contact information. As Jinwoo drives down the highway in a red truck, windows down, he eagerly anticipates the start of his job change quest, ready for whatever challenges lie ahead. As dusk falls, Jinwoo ventures deeper into the woods, feeling the weight of the decision to summon the Instance Dungeon. He knows that his past experiences with these dungeons have been unpredictable and dangerous, but the promise of a new power motivates him. With a final, steady breath, he activates the job change request, and suddenly, a vast purple void gate materializes before him, crackling with electricity and energy. The sheer magnitude of the gate makes him hesitate for a moment. Just before stepping in, he realizes he hasn't done his daily quest yet. Despite the thought lingering in his mind, he decides it can wait until after the job change quest. Entering the dungeon, Jinwoo finds himself in shadowy corridors. The silence is unsettling, but he presses forward, sensing the tension of impending danger. His instincts are on high alert as he continues walking, each step echoing through the stone walls. The ominous quiet is broken only by the sound of something approaching. In a luxurious dining room, Yu Myeonyeon, the chairman of Yujin Construction, swirls his wine glass thoughtfully as his son, Yu Jinho, sits uneasily across from him. The room is bathed in the soft glow of chandeliers, the air tense with unspoken words. Myeonyeon takes a sip of his wine, savoring it, while Jinho remains quiet, his nerves evident. Their conversation is interrupted by a polite knock at the door. It's Yu Jin-sung, the older son, who enters with a quiet apology for his tardiness. Myeonyeon reassures him, saying he's arrived right on time. The brothers exchange formal pleasantries, though Jinho's gaze falters as he exchanges looks with his brother. The weight of family expectations is heavy on his shoulders, his inner conflict hidden beneath his composure. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Jinwoo encounters a surprising notification in this area. The use of potions, full recovery, and access to the store are all prohibited. He won't be able to recover his stats upon leveling up and must complete the quest to exit. The realization hits him hard, no easy outs this time. His focus sharpens as the sound of metallic thuds grows louder in the distance. He grips Kasaka's venom fang tightly, bracing for the fight ahead. A large, armored knight appears, rushing toward him with a menacing sword. Jinwoo strikes first with a quick slice, but his attack has no effect on the knight's heavy armor. The knight charges again, and their blades clash with a loud metallic ring. Jinwoo's agility gives him an advantage as he creates some distance between them. Deciding to go on the offensive, he activates his fatal strike, aiming for a critical blow to the knight's chest. But his attack is once again thwarted by the armor. Undeterred, Jinwoo dodges the knight's strikes and recalls his past victory over Kasaka, the beast he had defeated with nothing but his bare hands. Channeling that strength, Jinwoo tears the knight in half, using sheer force to overwhelm his opponent. The knight's helmet falls to the ground with a clatter, and its body emits smoke as it crumples, defeated. Jinwoo gains a level, but he can't help but regret the wasted fatal strike. Before he can catch his breath, more knights begin to approach, their heavy footsteps signaling another challenge. Jinwoo braces for another fight, his mind already working on strategies to overcome these new adversaries. At the family dinner, the atmosphere remains tense. Jinho, lost in thought, doesn't touch his meal, while Myeonyeon attempts to break the ice by discussing Jin-sung's progress with the Yujin Guild. Jin-sung reports that their attempts to recruit Chae Hye-in and Min Byung-gu have failed, prompting him to consider recruiting an S-rank hunter from Europe or the Middle East. Myeonyeon listens carefully, though his thoughts seem focused on something else. He turns his attention to Jinho, questioning his recent activities in the C-rank dungeons. He warns Jinho not to deviate from their guild's plans, cautioning him against becoming too ambitious. Jinho remains silent, absorbing the pressure from his father's stern gaze. However, in his mind, he reassures himself. He knows that Jinwoo, with his extraordinary potential, is the secret weapon he's been waiting for. This knowledge steels his resolve as he prepares for the future. Jinwoo stands battered and bruised, his body on the brink of collapse after the relentless waves of enemies. His mind races as he scans the battlefield, sensing that the end of this trial is fast approaching. He takes a shaky breath, reminding himself of his resolve to get stronger, to face even greater challenges. As he backs toward the throne, a familiar feeling washes over him, the sensation of pushing beyond his limits. His body protests, his stamina nearly depleted, but his spirit refuses to give in. The sound of heavy footsteps echoes from the hall, signaling the arrival of more enemies. Jinwoo's eyes narrow as he realizes that this isn't just about survival anymore. It's a tested trial meant to push him to his absolute limit. He can't afford to falter now. He must rise above his exhaustion, his fear, and his doubts. Just as he prepares to face the next wave of enemies may be closing in, but for the first time, Jinwoo feels like he's ready for whatever comes next. And as the knights charge forward, Jinwoo raises his weapon, his eyes blazing with the fire of someone who has just begun to tap into his true potential. Jinwoo's world is a blur as he lies crumpled on the cold stone floor, his body racked with exhaustion. His once unyielding resolve is beginning to falter, and the mocking voices of his past echo relentlessly in his mind. But those words, despite their sting, hold no power over him anymore. He fights to hold on to that knowledge, but his battered body betrays him, weakening his spirit. Another strike lands, and he falls to his knees, gasping for breath. Then, a voice of familiar, comforting voice breaks through the haze. But before Jinwoo can fully grasp the meaning of those words, another voice chimes in, Lee Juhee. It would be better to just give up. Her words seem genuine. Filled with concern, the air grows cold and a chilling, mocking voice echoes from behind him. It's his own voice, his past self, staring back at him with a sinister smile. You're getting what you deserve, his former self sneers, the bitterness and despair from his past churning within him. A sharp pang of pain shoots through Jinwoo's chest. He fights against the rising flood of doubts and fears. He's surrounded by enemies, and the weight of his own failures presses down on him. His hands are slick with blood, his body is battered beyond recognition, and the fight seems endless. Yet, even with all of that, Jinwoo refuses to give up. His mind clears for a moment, and he remembers something he learned long ago in the dungeon. The true measure of a hunter isn't their strength or their rank, but their ability to keep fighting. Jinwoo also redeems his reward from defeating Igris, the blooded ruler's hand. The ability feels foreign at first, like telekinesis, but he can sense its potential. Jinwoo activates the teleportation stone and prepares to return to the battlefield. The harsh desert landscape begins to fade, replaced by the dark, ominous corridors of the dungeon. Back in the real world, Choi Jong-in and his team are nearing Jeju Island. The pilot's voice crackles over the intercom, alerting the team to a surge of mana coming from the water below. Jinwoo, meanwhile, is on his own path to greatness. With every battle, he grows stronger, faster, and more determined. Jinwoo, now equipped with his new powers as the Shadow Monarch, stands tall in the throne room. His shadow army kneels before him, a formidable force at his command. Igris the Blooded, once an intimidating foe, is now his ally. The weight of his transformation settles on him, and for the first time, he feels the full potential of his newfound power. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.